Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 18th annual Leadership Live. While I've met many of you, for those I haven't, I'm Jackie Kvyat, the Executive Director of TCI Florida. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today as your host and hope that you enjoyed the networking as much as I did. For the next hour, we'll feature a conversation with Sonia Myles and Katie Kempner, followed by a live Q&A session with all of you. So get ready to jot down your questions in the Q&A box. Before the program, here's a shout out to all of our incredible sponsors. They made this program possible and so much more. First, I'd like to thank our contributors, Bank of America and Ryder, and all of our supporters, Bombay Sapphire, Kaufman Rawson, the Miller Family Foundation, and PNC Bank. And we certainly couldn't do this without all of our friends. FPL, Gerson Preston, Greenberg Traurig, Har Family Foundation, One Parking, Linda Pereski and Tony Randolph, Antonia Schuster, Spirit, Starwood Property Trust, and Wells Fargo. Thank you one and all. You are incredible, and you made all of this possible. While many of you know TCI and have supported our work, I'd love to share two exciting new initiatives. Both involve expanding our footprint throughout Florida and providing more opportunities for women in leadership. New to TCI Florida is the Women's Leadership Development Impact Study. Said another way, it's how women's leadership development impacts women and businesses in our state. Take the survey to help capture what's working and what's not working for businesses to develop, retain, and advance women in leadership. You can opt in via the link in the chat, and we'll send you a unique survey URL for your organization. And many of you are familiar with our annual recognition event honoring women CEOs and the tremendous work and support provided by Kaufman Rawson. Now we're expanding throughout the state. Stay tuned for our announcement with all of the details. Before we begin our formal program, one more reminder that Katie Kempner and Sonia Myles will be taking your questions live following their conversation. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce TCI Florida Co-Chair, Tammy Blanco. Take it away, Tammy.
Thank you very much, Jackie. I'm excited and extremely thankful that all of you have decided to spend the next hour or so with us. It is my pleasure to introduce the moderator of today's program, Katie Kempner. Katie will then introduce our special guest, Sonia Myles, and begin the conversation. Katie Kempner is an entrepreneur. She is the founder of Kempner Communications, a high-end communications consultancy specializing in reputation and brand management, media training, content creation, and crisis communications. Prior to founding her own firm in 2015, she spent her career running global communications at renowned advertising agency CP&B, as well as its holding company, MDC Partners. Katie is also the creator and host of Perspectives with Katie Kempner, a long-running digital series that focuses on successful working women balancing busy lives, much like most of us on this call. A frequent industry speaker, moderator, and host, Katie is homegrown. So now, without further ado, I welcome both Katie Kempner and Sonia Myles to our virtual stage.
Hi, I'm Katie Kempner, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here again for another TCI annual leadership luncheon. I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to be a part of this again, and I'm even more thrilled to have the opportunity to share with you this conversation with my dear friend, Sonia Jackson Myles. For those of you who don't know Sonia, although I'm sure plenty of you do, she is the founder and CEO of the Accord Group, which is a leadership development and executive coaching consultancy. And she is also the president, CEO, and treasurer and founder of the Sister Accord Foundation, which is a 501c3 corporation dedicated to changing how girls and women treat, support, and interact with each other. Before she started the Accord Group, she spent over 20 years in corporate America, managing over $20 billion of spend for global companies, including Procter & Gamble, Ford Motor Company, and the Gillette Company. She served as an advisor and executive coach to numerous Fortune 500 companies and startups. She's worked with celebrities and their teams and leadership teams, all about growth strategies to diversity, particularly in the areas of leadership development, unconscious bias training, and women's initiatives, change management, employee engagement, and creating a culture where employees can really thrive. She has an amazing program called Dreamwalking, which is an executive coaching and leadership development program that hundreds of Dreamwalkers have gone through, where they are able to really have the tangible tools to design and live their destinies. She is a frequent media personality, and perhaps you've seen her on the Today Show, Good Morning America, CNN, read about her in the New York Times or recently in Forbes. And I am going to stop there and introduce her. Sonia, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction.
Well, and I didn't even get to a quarter of it. So there's just so much, but I don't want to waste time reading many more of your accolades because I want to jump into it. Although I have to say it's, you do so many interesting things. It's really hard to know where to begin, but I think it might be a great place to begin talking just a little bit about your career in corporate America.
Well, thank you. Wow. I am so honored, first of all, to be here. So thank you to the Commonwealth Institute for giving me this opportunity to share my background, my experiences, and my insights. So I started my career at Ford Motor Company. I'm a car fanatic, even to this day. And so starting in the automotive industry was really exciting for me. I studied marketing, but actually my career and background is in purchasing. Some companies call it procurement. And so I had a wonderful career at Ford Motor Company, buying everything from engines to sun visors, and I stayed there for 13 years. After my tenure at Ford, I moved to Boston, Massachusetts, and started a career with the Gillette Company, again, in purchasing. About a year into my tenure at Gillette, Procter & Gamble announced that they were going to acquire Gillette. And I said, oh no, I can't move to Cincinnati, Ohio. Where do I live today? Cincinnati, Ohio. So you never know where life's turns and the things that will present themselves to you. You just never know where they're going to come from. And making sure that we're ready, no matter what it is critically important. So Procter & Gamble said, hey, we would like for you to lead part of the integration of Gillette into Procter & Gamble. And then we want to create a role for you. Like, where does that happen, right? And so I was so fortunate to have the opportunity to lead a team, a global team of individuals focused on media sourcing, media buying. And we spent a little over a year putting that organization together. And then my last role with Procter & Gamble was buying all of the packaging globally. So the media buying at that time, we were the largest advertiser in the world. That was $7 billion in responsibility. My last role at Procter & Gamble prior to me leaving to start the Sister Accord was buying all of the packaging globally. And that was $6 billion in responsibility. And then I left there in 2013 to walk in purpose, as I like to say.
Well, let's talk about that, because you left Procter and Gamble. You had this big, high-profile position, and I know in business when I say your name, people say, "Oh, I know who she is, but she doesn't know me." I mean, you were this big personality, and you left to start your own consultancy and the Sister Accord Foundation, which we'll talk about later. But why'd you decide to leave?
Wow.
Big
When I hear that question, it takes me back to the fact that I was so afraid to leave. It takes me back to a period of time when I was really doubting what I could do as an entrepreneur, because I had been this corporate person for all these years. And I just remember so vividly thinking about this. I had a mentee from every continent, with the exception of Antarctica. And I noticed differences between what my male mentees were coming to me and talking about and what my female mentees were coming to me and talking about. My male mentees would say, "Hey, Sonia, I've got this amazing business idea. I need you to help me flesh it out." My female mentees were saying, "I'm really struggling with Janice," or "I don't really, I'm not feeling Tina," or "I don't trust Ann." And I kept saying, "Gosh, what is going on? What is happening within these four walls?" And this was across all the companies, right? 3 amazing companies, but I was still seeing the same thing happening. And I said, how are we going to get to the C-suite? How are we going to get to the boardroom if we're more concerned about each other than focused on the business? And so I started to really study what happens to us as girls, that by the time we get into the world of work, we bring all this stuff with us because we haven't addressed it. And we're socialized as little girls to not like each other and to compete with each other. It's a universal truth. And so I decided that I had so much passion for this that I had to leave a job that I loved and start the Sister Accord LLC and the Sister Accord Foundation, so that I could focus on what are those things that are getting in the way of us operating with excellence each and every day. And a lot of times it was around those relationships or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm. So before we dive into that part of it, you left to do something you believed in and to follow your own dream. But I read a quote from you recently where you said one of the real epidemics we face in the world right now is dream phobia. We either play small for others or we play it safe for ourselves. Can you expand on that and what you mean by that? Also, especially now when people are rethinking what their dreams even are.
Gosh, Katie, I talk to, and people call me and reach out to me, and I talk to people every week. And so many people will say to me, "I stopped dreaming years ago. I stopped dreaming. It's too painful for me to dream." And I would always say, when you stop dreaming, you stop living. So you're just going through the motions, and that is not living. And so it was so important for me, again, based on all the work that I have been doing in corporate America over 20 plus years, to say, how can I help? What's the thing that I can do? How can I use my skills and my experiences to help people dream again, to inspire them to dream again, and to help them understand what happens in life when you dream again? And so this dream phobia that I created, and so I always joke and tease when I'm talking to groups, have you heard of dream phobia before? And they'll say, no. I said, that's because I made it up. See, I get to make things up now as an entrepreneur. And, it's so important because I was a play it safe kind of girl. I was overthinking things, not moving. And then I would run into people who, try to shrink because they didn't want to really show all of their gifts and their talents because they were afraid of what other people would say about them. And so I said, it's time for us to talk about these things and talk about them in a way that inspires people to move to their next level of excellence and to understand what that really looks like.
Because it's all tied in, isn't it? What you're saying, if people are afraid to lead their biggest life because of things maybe that they were taught when they were young, it
Yep.
really is all tied into the work that you're doing in different ways.
It's all tied into that. And as a parent, and I say this to all of the people that I coach, my CEOs, president, whatever level, as parents, we have to be very careful that we're not projecting our stuff onto our children. And so again, exactly what you're saying is so important because it's all interrelated.
No, that's so true. So in this vein of dreams, let's talk about Dreamwalking. This is a program that you do with huge corporations. I mean, you're a highly sought after person to do this program, and we're lucky because we're going to get to hear some tools today. But first, can you tell us a little bit about what the program is?
Yeah, so Dreamwalking is my process. I love processes and methodologies. And so I created a lot of models when I first left Procter & Gamble. I just sat down and really thought through what are the things that are really important that I want to convey. And so then I created models and I created processes for them. And so Dreamwalking is the process of taking your dreams, that thing that just burns inside of you. Like you go to sleep thinking about it, you wake up thinking about it. What is that thing? And you take it from your heart to your head where you can envision, you begin to see it in a lot of different ways. And then you take it to your hands where you put the plan in place. So many people are trying to do these things that they're passionate about, and they don't have a plan. And then to your feet, where you are literally walking in it every day and designing your destiny, because we all have the power to design our destinies. Literally, that's all I'm doing every day that I wake up, right? As I create these things. And so as a creator and an innovator, I felt like as I kept getting the question, how did you do it? How did you do it? How did you develop this successful business talking about love and kindness and dreaming and words that people in corporate America would shun away from? How did you do it? And it was really what Dreamwalking is all about, is sharing with people what my process was, what my methodology was, what my thinking was around bringing my dreams to life.
Well, one of the things I love about the way that you work is you are both aspirational in the sense that you really inspire something in people to think bigger, to try to do things bigger, but it's not just talk. It's real tangible tools that a person can use. And it's that combination that I think makes, everything makes you so sought after, but also so valuable. So could you share with us one tool that can help all of us learn to dreamwalk?
Oh my gosh, I could talk to you all night. You have all night? We have all night? How long do we have? Well, I have so many things that I could share and say. I think the one that I will talk about is tapping into your superpower. And your superpower is your gift, your talents, the thing that you do. You can do it effortlessly in your sleep because you're so good at it. A lot of times we are, and this happens in rearing, and then it happens in the world of work. So often we're focused on the things, the gaps, the things that we're not so great at. And okay, now how do I get better at these things? And that's important. Don't get me wrong, but we need to spend more time on strengthening the strengths as you move to your next level of excellence. Tapping into your superpowers and being able to say and recognize that it's a superpower is a great thing. But guess what? So often we shrink and say, oh, I can't say that. I'll sound like I'm bragging. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't say that. But when you have a heart, and your heart and the intentions of your heart are pure, people feel it. They can tell if you're kind of going off the tracks. And so I encourage people all the time, if you don't embrace the awesomeness that's inside of you, how do you expect anybody else to see it? How do you expect other people to engage in it? And so tapping into your superpowers is a big aspect of dream walking, because once you understand what your gifts and talents are, you can begin to see and connect the dots in ways that are really mind-blowing. As I take my clients through this, they're like, wow, I didn't know that was inside. I know, that's why I'm here, to stir it up on the inside of you. And so tapping into those superpowers and writing it down. I keep a journal with me all the time, writing down those things that you're really great at, and begin to recognize how you show up when you're operating in those superpowers begins to give you the confidence. All of this it's about confidence building. And we all need it because we all have those moments of doubt. And so I would say that that's just one of the tools and one of the aspects that I spend a lot of time on with my leaders, my clients in general, whether they are in corporate America, wanting to start a business, my celebrity clients. We all need that.
Do you find, I'm just curious, that for women, it's more difficult because women are, it appears to me, much less likely to put themselves out and be like, I'm really very good at this. Instead, it's more like, oh, as you just said, oh, but I know how to do this, but I don't know how to do this. Something along those lines. Do you find that's more with women?
What I find, and it's so fascinating, for me to study this, and I study this. What I find is that men have those moments of doubt as well, but they'll still go for it.
Yeah.
They'll say, this role, I may not have all of these things that are listed here that are needed, that are requirements, but I'm going to go for it. Whereas the women, I usually have to say, okay, I understand that may be something that you want to build a skill on, but you can still talk to the folks. You can still share, all of the great things that you have accomplished, because there still may be some alignment. So the tentativeness happens more with women that I've worked with before than the men.
Or the doubt, or the, sort of what people call imposter syndrome. When I interview women on my Perspectives podcast, a lot of times that comes up, this, feeling, well, I don't really deserve this position, when in fact you do.
Absolutely, you do. Absolutely. Yes.
So let's go back to talking about realizing your destiny and your destiny specifically, and talk about the Sister Accord Foundation. Tell us a little bit about the mission, some of the things that you're doing. It's so incredible, and I just would love for you to share with everyone.
Wow. Thank you so much you're such an amazing interviewer.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Wow. The Sister Accord. I every time I think about, or I'll receive text messages, and this happens every week, and someone will say, you saved my life. What? or you helped me to overcome anxiety, or you help, we just get so many really amazing messages from people. And the Sister Accord Foundation, when I first left Procter & Gamble, was established in 2013, and we had our very first tea party. And our areas of focus are educating girls and women. So we give scholarships. By the end of this year, we'll give $45,000 in scholarships. And we just started, right? And then the enlightening girls and women of the power of sisterhood. So all of the events that we do, all of the workshops that we do, all of those things, all of the tea parties, which is our signature program, all of that falls under the second pillar. And then the third is eradicating bullying and violence against girls and women. And as I have shared with you before, we have multiple things that we are dealing with in this global pandemic. And violence, domestic violence rates have just shot through the roof all over the world. It's not just in the US. And so we are very, very serious about the work that we do to help people, our young girls understand the red flags, when you're in a relationship. And, I wish people would have talked to me about some of these things that we make sure that we're talking about. And so what are the red flags in relationships? Romantic relationships and friendships, because there can be red flags in both. And so we are so excited about this work. My goal is to have 1 billion girls and women learn how to love themselves and each other. 1 billion. And I knew that Africa and Asia, Latin America, we would have to go global if this was going to be a goal that we reached. And I'm so excited to share that the Sister Accord Africa, our first chapter in Africa, was launched on August 28th of this year. And so we're now getting ready to award a $500 grant to a business, a woman-owned business in Zimbabwe. We're going to also give a $500 scholarship to a young lady in Zimbabwe. So we, as you said earlier, and thank you for saying that, it's one thing to envision, but you must walk. The walk and the talk have to be aligned. And so we're focused on action. What do we need to do to improve the lives of girls and women around the world?
And it's interesting because I happen to know, for some of your educational scholarships, they're bigger. Some of the grants that you give women, business women, just to get them a little farther are not really that big, but they make all the difference. You said 500, there's more than one of those. So they're $500 grants, but it's really amazing what they're able to do just by having a little bit of extra backing behind them.
That's right. Absolutely. The scholarships that we're giving, when my mother passed away in 2019, we started the Nella D. Jackson Memorial Scholarship because education was so important to her. We know that education saves lives and changes lives. And so being able to partner with the Seven Principles Foundation, we have started giving $5,000 scholarships. And I mean, literally helping people graduate, substantial. On the Sister Accord LLC side, wanted to, again, just give women-owned businesses just a little help, some resources. And we started giving $2,500 business grants for them. And they have done amazing things, printed books, and started businesses. Just having a little bit of resource has made a huge difference for these companies.
So before we move on, if people want to learn more about the Sister Accord Foundation, where should they go?
The Sister Accord Foundation.org.
Okay.
The Sister Accord And sister is SISTER, Accord, ACCORD .org.
Excellent.
Foundation.
Yeah.
Did I say foundation? The Sister
did.
Accord Foundation.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's change gears a little bit. This is a leadership luncheon.
Yeah.
And you work with a lot of leaders, you work with a lot of big corporations, with the CEOs and C-suite leadership. What do you see as the primary role of a leader, especially today? That's a big question.
Yes, it is. And my leaders, sometimes I think my leaders think, where did she come from? What is she talking about? And then after I'll introduce some of these things, they'll say, Sonia, how did you know these things? I say, I study it, right? I study it. What I am asking leaders to really focus on right now is providing hope. Providing hope. The last almost 2 years has been so incredibly challenging, so heavy, so dark. People are dealing with all kinds of situations. And I have said to leaders, you have to be hope. You have to be a light in all of this, helping people navigate all these multiple things that are going on. And so when I use these terms, dream and love and hope, I think sometimes people think, oh, that's kind of out there. But I'm telling you, if you focus on that and what hope looks like in your organization, for some, it may mean making sure that your communication is on par and consistent. In the absence of information, people make stuff up. And when they make it up, they typically go negative. And then you have to unravel all of that. So this is one of my original quotes that people love. You have to unravel all of this. You don't have time to unravel a bunch of things when you can just give people information that they need that then helps them to understand what's going on. And so hope can be different in different environments, but I'm asking leaders to pay attention to what they need to do to inspire the people in their organization to keep moving forward. What does that look like? What are the things that you need to be mindful of? And driving consistency, especially in today's environment, that consistency is really important.
So, and you have, for people that might not know, you have a very popular program called Leading with Love that you do with CEOs. And love, as you say, love, dreams, these are not words typically associated with the workplace, and in fact are shunned to a certain extent, as in like, let's not make this situation too touchy-feely, but you're not talking it from that point of view. Really, it's about being empathetic and having compassion. Am I right about that?
That's it, sister. Empathy, compassion, respect. Respect. Do you understand when you hear the term, the Great Resignation, and what happened? And I've been talking about this. So many people have been reaching out to me and saying, Sonia, you have been talking about this for over 20 years. How does it feel that the world is now catching up with you? And I said, well, this is just who I am. But I've been talking about this for so long. People are leaving companies today. And oftentimes they don't even have another job lined up. They don't have another position. They are just saying, right here, today, in this place, I don't feel valued. I don't feel respected. And I'm out of here. And so I've been talking about this for so many years. We have to have environments and cultures where everyone, not just some people, everyone has the opportunity to grow and develop and be respected and be valued. And so now people are seeing, folks are saying, oh no, I'm not dealing with that. I may have dealt with it before, but I am not doing that anymore. And so a lot of what I've been talking about and what I talk about with Lead with Love and Respect, people thought, oh, Sonia, that is so soft. Kindness is soft? No, kindness takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of strength to be kind. Okay. And so I think that now people are recognizing that. And as people are leaving some of the organizations where cultures are not healthy, they're understanding the importance of it.
Well, talking about unhealthy cultures, you and I have discussed this before. This study that just came out about women who are actually afraid to go back to work or dreading going back to in-person working because of bullying in the workplace,
Yeah.
and women not being nice to each other. And, you know, we sort of started the conversation when we were talking about why you started the Sister Accord Foundation, that this is something that women really have learned from a very early age to compete with each other. Who's the prettiest, who's the thinnest, who's the richest, all these things, who's the smartest, you know? And so there's a lot of women, you see this a lot, the women that the way that they really get ahead is, and this is a generalization, is they sort of put down other women, maybe not even really to their faces, but in a way that tries to keep them where they are.
Mm-hmm.
What can be done about this?
Well, everyone has to engage in the heart work. So for those who follow me, you'll see hashtag heart work is one of the things that I talk about a lot, because everyone has to engage in it if we are going to overcome all of the isms, bias, you know, all of the negative things that happen. We have to examine our hearts. What are our intentions? What are we trying to do? What is at the root of the behavior? Like if you want to take someone else out, what's going on there? Are you operating from a place of abundance or scarcity? Because there's more than enough for all of us to win and succeed, right? What you desire and what I desire is likely not even the same thing in many instances, because we don't talk to each other and we don't truly connect with each other. A lot of times we think, oh, she's my competition. No, your competition is your next level of excellence. And then when you get there, it's your next level of excellence. And then when you get there, it's your next level of excellence. That is the competition. But what happens so often is, especially because this starts as early as the age of 4, we begin to have these behaviors that cause us to actually, in the workplace, believe that, I got to make her look bad. Oh, I got to say that was a bad idea, or I have to throw her under the bus, or the backbiting, or, you know, saying something different over here. I've seen it all, right? I've seen it. And so it happens. And unfortunately, even in this remote work environment, we're still seeing it happen. And you would say, gosh, wouldn't that change? Like, wouldn't we have more compassion given everything that we've been dealing with? But I think when you are dealing with people who have a scarcity mentality, they just think, this is how I must operate in order to win and be successful. And what I am doing is breaking all that down and helping girls and women understand that that is not the way to succeed.
That is true. And that also leads us to talking about mentorship, which is something that is at the core of TCI. So you said you have, I don't know what you have against Antarctica and why you don't have a mentee there, but you said you have a mentee everywhere else. What are some tangible ways that women can really support each other, especially right now when they may not be meeting as much in person?
One of the things that I oftentimes will ask people to do, because I'm this Uber mentor, and so everyone would always come to me. Folks were drawn to the fact that I was willing to put in the time to mentor them. And so my admins at all the companies that I worked for would say, "Do you ever say no?" And I would say, "No, I don't say no," because I know how important mentoring is. One of the ways that we can help each other is to share information. Knowledge is power. So what happened a lot of times, I would see people kind of hoard the information. Oh, I can't share this. And I would say, no, we go farther, faster together. We can have creative ideas and innovative ideas if we share these things, right? And so helping people understand how to share information that is helpful in people becoming successful in their roles is a really huge aspect of mentoring. The coaching, as I talked about, strengthening the strengths. How do you do that? If you're really good, technically, what are the things that you want to do to go from good to great? And giving people the opportunity to talk about that in a safe space is very important. Safe spaces are critically important for our mental and emotional health and well-being. And so mentoring does that. It gives you that. You can share experiences, particularly when you're talking to people who have done what you desire to do. And so I'm asking, people to make sure that they're sharing, that they're reaching out. How are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help you? Anything I can do to serve you? Whatever those kinds of those things, look like for individuals, I'm asking them to make sure that they're being more intentional about doing them in today's environment.
Now, one of the things that I know you feel strongly about is exactly what today's working environment looks like, because we were all remote. Now, some people are going back, some aren't, it's hybrid. For those people, women that maybe don't want to go back, either because of childcare has changed or they're not comfortable in the same way. I mean, people have gotten a little different, about being around each other. Whatever the reason is, there is a theory or a thinking that it's going to be more difficult to get ahead if you are working remotely. I know you have thoughts on that for employees, but also for the leaders that are here today, thinking about what their teams are going to look like. Can you talk about that a little, please?
Yes, and what I've said to leaders, particularly if you have people who want to be remote, some may want to come in, right? Because people are different. Some people, I've talked to say, this remote thing is driving me crazy. I need to go into an office. I function better when I'm in an office. What I've said to leaders is take the time to engage the people in your organization so that you understand how they best work. That's what's so important. So for the people who want to come into the office and you're bringing people back in, making sure that you understand that that's what they desire. For the people who want to stay home, what I've asked leaders to do is don't disadvantage people. Don't set up a structure that disadvantages people who decided that they want to stay at home and you've said yes to them staying at home. Then don't penalize them for that. And that is an area that I think leaders are going to have to really pay attention to, because what happens is when you see people in the office and you're engaging and you're talking and you're bouncing ideas off of them, you're going to naturally say, oh, okay, this person is really engaged. They're working hard. This is the person that needs to get the promotion. Okay, well, what about the person who's working remotely? And so that's one of the biggest things that I am concerned about, is that folks who make that decision may unknowingly be removing themselves out of a particular career path if the leaders are not paying attention to that.
Yeah. So one final thing around workplace and workplace culture. One of the things that happened during this crazy time that was very positive in so many ways is the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that came out of that. You counsel leaders often on unconscious bias in the workplace and how it shapes thinking and behaviors.
Okay.
For legacy organizations in particular, it's often harder to shift culture to where it really needs to be. Do you have some advice for everyone when they're working on this issue?
Wow, there's so much to talk about.
And I asked you at the end, so that was like crazy.
Wow, there's so much to talk about. What I share with my clients is that we all have bias. See, in so many instances, people like to say, oh, only those people have bias, or only those people have bias, when in fact, we all have it because it's a part of human nature. You're trying to make sense of all of this stuff that you are seeing and experiencing. And so what happens is the brain makes snap judgments. It says, oh, if that, then this, right? What we have to do is say, recognizing that we all have it, how do I use it? How do I use my bias? Do I use it to disadvantage people? Do I use it to have arm's length distance relationships with people or keep people away from me? How do you use it? And so that is really the most important thing that I think people have to really be mindful of, is recognizing that our brains are just trying to figure all this stuff out. And what's important is that we pause long enough, and I call it the power of the pause. We pause long enough to say, wait a minute, where did that come from? Understanding your triggers, because we all have triggers based on our experiences. And so when you find yourself going down a particular path and you know that your bias is in there, you have to really have emotional intelligence that pulls back to say, wait a minute, no, that's not right. No, that my intentions are not right. And again, it takes a lot of self-control and a lot of emotional intelligence to be able to check yourself, but that's really what's important.
So I know so many people have questions for you, although I still have a whole long list we didn't get to. But before we get to everyone's questions, I just want to ask you, is there one piece of advice that has helped guide you through your life and your career that you could share with us?
I think back over my career. I think about my choices that I have made. And one of the things that always comes back to me is the fact that you have to believe in the infinite possibilities for your life. I have always, compartmentalized, oh, it's got to look like this, and oh, it's got to be this way. When in fact, no, it doesn't. It can be all of these amazing things. And you just have to decide what it is that you want to prioritize and then go make it happen. And so I had to retrain my brain to believe in the infinite possibilities for my life. And it literally changed the trajectory of my life. And so I would say that that is the one thing that has really helped me as I have moved from being a corporate executive to now being an entrepreneur.
And you have been so successful at it and touched so many people's lives, including mine, which is why I was so excited when I was asked to do this interview. And now I can't take up any more of your time, and we'd like to open up the floor for other people's questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vanya Laguerre, and I am the local market executive with Bank of America here in Miami. I am honored and proud to join you today as a sponsor of TCI's 18th Annual Leadership Program. Our relationship with TCI spans a number of years, and in large part the work that TCI does to propel women leaders professionally and personally on their path for success very much so aligns to Bank of America's own belief. So it is my absolute pleasure that you've joined us today, and I hope that you have a wonderful time. Thank you so much.
Hello. So let's get to some of these questions. But first, I need to thank Vanya from Bank of America. Vanya, thank you for everything that you do for TCI. So let's see. Now, this is the portion I have to put my glasses on for. Okay. So here's one good one, Sonia. How do you build a positive corporate culture similar to what you've described? Sonia, I think you're on mute.
Ah,
There we
can
go.
you now? Thank you for that. That is such an important question. Now more than ever, we must pay attention to our cultures and how things get done. What is allowed? What is not allowed? How do we talk to each other? How do we interact with each other? All of those things. And the way that I ask my clients to really pay attention to this is to understand what happens in today's environment. How do things happen? Where do the ideas come from? How are the ideas then built upon? Do some people get left out of that process? Do all people feel valued, or do just some people feel valued? And what can happen, and a lot of times I think companies don't recognize these things, but get this, when you have 100-year-old company, and we have companies now that are 100 years old, if it's a marketing focused company, well, what happens? All of the people in marketing are seen and viewed as prestigious, and then all of the other supporting organizations can feel less than. So I think that what's really important for leaders to do is assess how work gets done and how people are engaging with each other. Those handovers are really important. How does work flow? Who is viewed as more important than another in the organization? And then address that, because it's important that everyone feels like they have the opportunity to grow, develop, and succeed. You can no longer, okay, it may have served you well in the past, but in today's environment and beyond, you cannot have just pockets of people feeling like they're respected and valued. You really have to find a way to make sure that everyone in the organization feels that way. Great question.
That's a great question. Oh, here's another one, which I especially love as the mother to a daughter. It says, how do we teach our daughters this message of positivity and the hard work? And how do we teach this to our daughters when they're young?
We literally have to talk about it every single day. And I tell this to all, everyone who's part of the Sister Accord family. We literally, because you have to think about all of these things and all of these images and everything on social media that will tell us that we're less than. Comparison is the enemy of joy. The moment you start comparing yourself to anybody, you're going to always find someone thin or cute, all the stuff that really doesn't matter at the end of the day, but that society says matters. And so you're going to always go to that place. I call it, the downward spiral if you start comparing. And so we literally have to talk about this every day, where we say that in order to live my best life, I must learn how to love myself. And so that's what the Sister Accord Foundation, that's exactly the work that we do. We build confidence. We're not building arrogance or any of that. It's confidence. being able to truly love you, because then you can see other girls, other women as an extension of yourself. And so that's the work that we do, but you have to do it every single day. You have to talk about it. We have to make sure that we are saying to ourselves and saying to our children, we have to role model it, right? So we can't just talk about it. We have to role model it. What does it mean to have healthy relationships with other women? And they have to see it because, on TV, they see women fighting. They see girls fighting. And that is what gets the sponsorship dollars. That's what gets the advertising dollars, are those programs. And so in order to, and I have this thing that I say, an object in motion is a physics theorem. An object in motion stays in motion until something disrupts it. The sister accord is a disruptor. We literally have to reframe and retrain our brain because of all the stuff that we see and what we've experienced. And that's the work that we do every single day as part of the Sister Accord's mission. Thank you. Great questions.
Well, here is another good question, and I want to know this one too. What's next for the Sister Accord Foundation in 2022? So what are you focusing on?
Oh gosh, we have so many exciting things. Some of them I can't share. I wish I could. Oh my gosh. But what we are focused on is expanding. So remember when I talked about earlier, I focus on girls and women, right? Because I know I have to get to the girls so that they don't buy into the negative behavior among other girls. But I had to get to women because women would say to me, gosh, where were you when I was growing up? And so I have to work both groups. And so we're in school systems, which is so exciting to me. Cincinnati Public Schools was the first to adopt the Sister Accord Leadership Development Curriculum. We have to literally talk about it every day. What is exciting is looking at the expansion of that. What does the expansion of that look like? Well, Ohio State University is the first Sister Accord chapter on a college campus. Because we don't ever talk about these things through school and college, I wanted to be able to have these chapters. And so expansion of the chapters across college campuses. And like I said, Zimbabwe, we have folks in Asia who want to establish chapters. That's how we're going to make a difference in this world. Because when everyone is focused on heart work, when everyone is focused on this Sister Accord work, imagine what our world will be like. Imagine how we will truly be able to address violence and hate. And so that's what's so exciting for me is that 2022 is going to be an expansion of everything that we have set since we started in 2013. So I need you. I need everyone. I need everyone to be a part of this mission.
You need everyone. So we have time for one more question.
Okay.
When you see what I call triangulating between women leaders, how do you call it out in a productive way? Oh, this is a great question to end on.
Yes, thank you for this question. Something that I ask leaders to focus on, being cognizant of it, because a lot of times there's a lot of unconscious behavior, because you got to remember how we're socialized, right? And so a lot of times people may not even realize, in some instances they realize what they're doing, but in a lot of instances people don't even realize that they're triangulating, or that they're, the gang mentality, as I call it sometimes. And so what I always say to every client, every person I coach, you must focus on the behaviors. Okay. Don't attack people. So don't say, hey, you did this, you did that, because the moment you do that, people are going to be defensive. So if you really want to make sure that you are able to get your message across, it's important that you talk about the behavior, this particular behavior that you're seeing, and what the impact is to you and to the organization. And so I found that when I focused on the behaviors and how those negative behaviors, the triangulating, all of those things that you're talking about there in that question, when I focused on that, versus saying something specifically to a person. Hey, you're doing this, or you're that, or you're a terrible leader, or hey, you can forget it, because the defenses are going to go up. But if you talk about it in a way where you come from that perspective, I have found people to be very successful in addressing the issues that they were dealing with. Great questions.
Great questions, great answer, great interview. So on behalf of everyone at TCI, Sonia, I just want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It has been such an honor. Please stay in touch with me. I'm the Sister Accord on all social media. So please connect, and on LinkedIn, Sonia, Sonia Jackson Myles, Myles.
Fantastic. And if anyone wants to check my Insta, it's Katie.Kempner. And I wanted to just say, I can't even remember how many years now I've been a part of this luncheon. I think it's 7 or 8, and it has been such a pleasure to get to speak with so many amazing women and be a part of this. And so I want to thank everyone at TCI and Jackie. And Jackie'd like to close things out. So please welcome back, Jackie Kevian.
Thank you so much to our incredible moderator, Katie Kempner, and our awesome special guest, Sonia Jackson Myles. And to our TCI Florida co-chairs, Tammy Blanco and Laura Kaplan, and our entire advisory board. You make TCI great, and we are so appreciative. And once again, huge thanks to all of our sponsors who made today's program possible, and so much more. Of course, we sincerely thank all of you for attending and look forward to meeting in person soon. In the meantime, please take the survey, the Women's Leadership Development Impact Study Survey. Your voice matters. Please make it count by taking the survey. Thank you, and have a wonderful holiday season.